MLB Network is continuing their Top 10 Right Now series with the top 10 shortstops in the game. This is hands down my favorite position and the most difficult one for me to put together. But I'm going to bring you my top 10 shortstops, and I want to hear from you down in the comments. Let me know your top 10 shortstops in the game, where you disagree with my list. So let's get into it. Now, coming in at number 10, I'm taking a flyer on a guy with a proven track record who over the last several years has been very injury plagued, and it is Carlos Correa of the Minnesota Twins. When you look at what Correa has been for his career, this has been an impactful bat and a solid shortstop. And when going into this new 2025 season, hopefully those issues with his lower half and his back are behind him, and he can get back to being an impactful type of guy. This is a guy who's perennially in the top half of my top 10 shortstops list for years. And when you look at what he is capable of doing and what he means to that Twins franchise right now, this is a guy that they are trying to really push to the forefront of their sport and of their team. Going into the 2025 campaign, I think a healthy Carlos Correa can really bounce back in a very big way. Even given the limited amount of games that he played in the 2024 season, this was still an impactful bat. Now, obviously, with the numbers being skewed, there's going to be a lot more when you look at what his OPS plus was. There's no doubt about it, this is a guy who has that ability, but a longer term leash in terms of health is going to be the biggest factor for Carlos in 2025. Now, as we get into number 9 on my list, it is a young guy who I believe is going to have a tremendous year in 2025, and it is CJ Abrams of the Washington Nationals. The Nationals are a club to not be slept on this year, as they have a lot of young talent that is now at the major league level, and they're going to grow together. One of those players to me, CJ Abrams, has the ability and the stuff to be able to be a frontline guy for this Nationals team, a cornerstone franchise piece. This was the big marquee name in the trade that sent Juan Soto out to the San Diego Padres a couple of seasons ago. And there's no doubt that when you look at his progression, this is a guy who's starting to begin to come into his own. And I think in the 2025 season, with a young team around him, these guys can play together and really play up to their capabilities. 2025 for me and CJ Abrams is going to be a very, very big season. So I believe a lot in what this young national is capable of, and that's why he makes my top 10. Now, coming in at number 8 on my list is a stalwart of this group, and it is Trey Turner of the Philadelphia Phillies. There's no doubt that Trey Turner has the capabilities to be atop this list, but it is just now becoming a very, very deep position. And looking at what Turner is capable of doing, this is not a knock on his ability. This is still an elite player and has the tools to be even better. I think that getting into a good situation offensively, a good rhythm, is going to be key for Trey to bounce back up to the higher echelons of this list. But when you look at what he is capable of, this is a guy who's a foundational piece for that Philadelphia Phillies team that is looking to be a perennial postseason contender. Trey has the ability to be a solid defender, a good top of the order hitter, and someone that provides consistency when going well. I think that for Trey Turner, 2025 is going to be a season of even more greatness, and I think that he's going to get back to being one of the upper echelon players in this list. But going into this countdown, he's number 8 on mine. Now, as we get into the number 7 pick on my list, it is the new shortstop for the San Francisco Giants, Willie Adams. Adams has been one of the more underrated and quiet superstars in the game over the last several years, and that is absolutely put on full display with the contract that the Giants just gave him. I think that when you look at what he is going to be able to be for a team in the Bay that has been searching for a guy that they can start to build that franchise back around, Adams can be that guy. When you look at the tandem in that left side of the infield with Adams and Matt Chapman, there's no doubt the Giants are really building a solid foundation. Willie Adams is not going to be able to be the type of prolific home run hitter that one might expect, especially going into that expansive park at Oracle Park in San Francisco, but His ability to be able to hit the ball into the gaps, especially that triples alley with that beautifully designed ballpark, is going to be something that Willie Adams is going to be able to help elevate the offensive capabilities of the San Francisco Giants, something that has been lacking over the last several years. So look for Adams to really be a significant piece and someone that the Giants build around over these next coming several years of his contract. And with his capabilities and what he is able to do on both sides of the ball, he is definitely within the top 10 of the shortstops list. Now, as we get into number 6 on my list, it is a guy that has slid down a few spots, Cory Seager of the Texas Rangers. Seager is a guy who has been dealing with injuries, and it has limited his ability to be on the field for the Rangers. And when he's not on the field, he is not able to be that same dynamic game changer. But I think a healthy player, which he is now all trending towards to be in 2025, Seager has the ability to bounce back into the upper echelon of the shortstop conversation. When you look at what he means for the Rangers team, you just have to look back to a couple of seasons ago when he helped carry them to winning their first World Series title in franchise history. Cory Seager has all the makings of a franchise cornerstone piece, and that is why the Rangers gave him so much money a few seasons ago. Seager has the ability to be a solid defender with tremendous power, and that really allows him to be a significant piece in the middle of an order for a team that is looking to dominate a very winnable division in the American League West. So look for Cory Seager to have a big season now that looks like he is fully healthy again in 2025. Now, as we get into the top 5 of my list, it is a young player that is one of the most dynamic talents in all of the game, Ellie Cruz of the Cincinnati Reds. When you look at what Ellie is capable of, this is an unbelievable talent. He is one of the most fun players to watch what he does on a nightly basis. The aggressiveness with which he plays the game, there's very little players in this game that play with the same kind of hair on fire mentality that Ellie does. You look at what he is capable of on a power and speed combination, there are very few players in the history of the game that kind of give you that reminiscent feel. There's no doubt stolen bases are now becoming back in vogue with the rule changes that we got, and Ellie is taking full advantage of that. Look for him to have an even bigger season on the base pass in 2025, a bigger output offensively in terms of power production and overall production, and Ellie Cruz to me is going to be a guy that really breaks out in a huge way in 2025, and that's why he is at number 5 on my list. Now, as we get into the top 4, this to me is the rare air, and there's an argument to be made for each one of these 4 players to be number 1. But we begin at number 4 with Francisco Lindor. When you look at what Mr. Smiles can be, Frankie absolutely gives you the best of everything at the shortstop position. This is a Gold Glove caliber defender who is a switch hitter capable of stealing you a base, hitting for average, hitting for power. This is a guy who absolutely encompasses everything that you're looking for as the leader of that infield at the shortstop position. Again, when it comes to this spot, these 4 guys, there's an argument to be made that each and every single one of them could be number 1 on the list. Francisco Lindor really showed that capabilities in 2024 when he carried the Mets to that postseason berth. There's no doubt when he was moved up to the leadoff spot and what he was able to do for the team, it absolutely reinvigorated them, it revitalized them, and it put them in a position to be able to make the run that they did to the postseason. Very little question that Francisco Lindor has all the makings to be a number 1 shortstop on this list, but for now, he's at number 4 on mine. As we get into number 3 on my list, it is the Dodgers' Mookie Betts. When you look at what Mookie is, this is an anomaly of a player. He is capable of playing Gold Glove caliber defense no matter where you place him on the field. Whether the outfield, second base, shortstop, it does not matter where you place him. He is going to be an excellent defender as well as what he does on the offensive side of the baseball. To me, Mookie Betts is one of the biggest and brightest players and one of the players that we should be featuring even more heavily in terms of conversation of the best players in the game. His ability and versatility is something that absolutely benefits the Dodgers. But when you look at what he is capable of as a shortstop, to have that kind of range, to have that kind of ability on both sides of the baseball, to be able to provide the offense that he does, this is a tremendously successful and talented player. There's no doubt that the Dodgers are benefiting from his versatility by being able to acquire different players to play at different spots, be able to trade away guys like a Gavin Lux that were really supposed to be the shortstop of the future for that franchise. But Mookie's ability to move around the diamond and still provide you excellent defense and even better offense is something that the Dodgers have benefited from. And then when looking at what he is going to be for this team in 2025 as they look to try to recapture the gold and become the first repeat champions since the 99-2000 New York Yankees, the Dodgers are going to be featuring him and focusing on him heavily. And there's a reason why he's in the top 3 of my list. Now, as we get into the number 2 player on my list, it is the Baltimore Orioles' Gunar Henderson. Henderson has all the ability. Again, all 4 of these guys in these top 4 spots for me could be number 1, and there's a case to be made for each and every single one. Gunar Henderson and his ability to kind of be the driving force for this Baltimore Orioles team is really what's going to help them bounce back in a bigger way in 2025. We saw what he was capable of providing the Orioles in 2023 and really helped them get to that first place finish in the very competitive American League East. Gunar has the ability to be a guy who hits you 35, 40 home runs on a given year and also be able to provide you with solid defense. When you look at what his leadership capabilities are for this Baltimore Orioles team, this is a guy that goes out there and provides that leadership by example. Going out night in and night out, not taking a day off, very reminiscent of another tall shortstop for the Baltimore Orioles a couple of decades ago. This is a guy who has the makings to be that same type of impactful player. Now, obviously, putting a comp on him like Cal Ripken Jr. brings about a lofty expectation, but I think that the broad shoulders of Gunar Henderson can bear the weight of that and produce some similar results. But now as we get to the number 1 shortstop in the game, to me, it's a very easy number 1 to make. It is Bobby Whit Jr. of the Kansas City Royals. When you look at what Bobby Whit was able to do in 2024, put up a 9.5 win season in that season, basically nearly taking MVP from Aaron Judge, and it took a historic season, another historic season from Aaron Judge to not have Bobby Whit Jr. and what he was capable of doing for the Royals win MVP. There's very little question in my mind that Bobby Whit has some MVPs in his future, and it was just a absolute pleasure to watch him in 2024. This was a Royals team that was one of the worst, a 106 loss team, and they bounced back and made it to the playoffs, and it was because of the ability and what Bobby Whit was able to do. This is a guy who is capable of being a 30-30 and possibly even 40-40 type player when it comes to steals and power in that combination. You also have a guy who truly improved his defense in a tremendous way, and I think that going forward, this is going to be a guy who has the skills and the mind power, the willpower to be able to get even better. And to think that this was a guy who was a nearly 10-win player in 2024 could get even better is a scary proposition for everyone in this category in the baseball world. But there's very little question for me that Bobby Whit Jr. was the number 1 shortstop in the game. But I want to hear from you. Let me know your thoughts, your feelings down in the comment section below. Where do you think Bobby Whit lands on your list? Where do you rank everyone else? Let me know those thoughts and those lists down in the comment section below. And make sure you keep it locked in here by hitting that subscribe button down below, as well as the bell for post notifications, as we have some new content headed your way this season. So make sure you keep it locked in. I will catch you guys on the next video. Peace.